and welcome to O2 Tara Talks, conversations about one thing you can do right now to stay healthy in your body and mind. And a small disclaimer, today's talk is for informational purposes only. Please consult with your practitioner for guidance specific to your situation. And with that out of the way, I would like to introduce to you our guest today, Dr. Sherene McHenry, the People IQ expert. Hello, Dr. Sherene McHenry. How are you?
Hey, Tara.
How are you doing?
I am fantastic. How are you?
I am wonderful, thank you. And I would like to ask you, can you tell us in one sentence how you help people?
I help people understand themselves and others better so that they can set themselves up for success and set other people up for success.
Wow, that sounds like a particularly important thing for us to be focusing on right now in this time when we're a lot closer than we normally are, and we have so much change in our lives. If we can sort of help people, set everybody up for success, we'll be in a great spot. Love it. Well, can you tell us, Sherene, what is one thing that we can do right now?
I think the number one thing that we can do right now is take care of ourselves. And that can go a lot of different directions, but the one that just keeps coming back to mind is whether we're an introvert or an extrovert. And so introverts need pockets of time alone to recharge. And so they've had those, but now they're sheltering at home and people are all over their space and they want to be there for their kids, for the people that they love. But I'm watching introverts just burn through their emotional and energy reserves. And so for an introvert, that would be getting time alone and not feeling selfish for needing that. It's not a want, it's a need. Mm-hmm. And then I think of the poor extroverts who are energized by activities and by people and by just energy. And I feel so sorry for them because they're sheltering at home and it's really hard to keep creating fun. Number one, if you live by yourself alone or with the same people. And so when we're not taking care of that extroverted or introverted part of us, our energy is going to drain. Our tolerance for frustration is going to drain. And then it's going to come out in ugly ways where people are short and snippy. And then it can move along the scale to being verbally abusive. And I read a study this week, and 11% of parents are self-reporting that they're yelling at their children more and that they have engaged in slapping. And I thought, if 11% are self-reporting, I'm hunching the number is far higher. Right. So I think that's the number one thing we can do for ourselves is know ourselves and take care of ourselves so that our energy stay up. And we need to do that without feeling guilty.
That really resonates with me because I live with my middle schooler who is much more of an extroverted kid, and I'm the ambivert, but I definitely have the introverted qualities where, like you said, like I need my time alone, and it's just like I'm not going to be the person that I can be if I don't get that time, and we are finding that balance. And I'm used to being home during the day, working on my book, that kind of thing. But she's here all the time.
And she doesn't have all the external stimulation she usually gets.
Exactly.
So not only is she here, she's plugging into you is my hunch.
That's exactly it. And so we have had to have lots of different conversations about making sure, that we are giving each other what we need and what we can give and the space when we need that and whatever. And I'll be honest, I did even yell at her the other day about something where it was like, I was just spent. And I did go and apologize to her, obviously, afterwards and said, hey, look, I shouldn't have lost my cool. It was this. But, I'm in that 11%.
Well, but I have to say, I love your authenticity and honesty. And what I believe with all my heart right now is we just don't have the bandwidth and the runway that we usually do, which makes taking care of ourselves even more important. And I love that you went in and you apologized because that's not who you are or who you want to be. And yet it happened. And what I know about kids is an apology goes a long, long way. of course, the second part of that is what are we going to do to take care of ourselves so that we don't tip into that again? And I just think everyone has a real invitation right now to figure out, what do I need? And then I go back to the gift I'd love to give everyone who listens to this, is to not feel guilty for doing what you need. It's taking care of ourselves that enables us then to have the emotional energy and the physical energy to take care of a child, to take care of a spouse or a significant other, to take care of our family emotionally and or physically. And it's just a challenging time. And so right now, and I hope you are, and every person who views this, is that you're giving yourself grace. We get to be human. We get to make mistakes. You yelled at her. You're not a terrible parent.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh,
So
and
that's the whole thing. I think so much that, especially women, we feel guilty, and then that spirals into something so much worse than even where we start.
Yeah. And I like the way you kind of, couch it too, to say, in taking the time that you need and giving yourself that time, if you think of it as taking time away from somebody else, then yeah, you are going to it's not going to be a good thing. But if you think of it as, like I always say, I need to recharge my battery, so if I think of it as recharging my battery so I can then do what I want to for you, then there's no guilt involved. No, and it's not selfish. It's allowing me to do what I want to do. It's what I need to be able to do, to care for her the way I want to. So I like the way you really, put the emphasis on that, because I think if we look at it in the way that is helpful like that, of saying it's allowing us to help, then we don't end up with any of the negative emotions. We don't feel bad about doing it or whatever. So I like
Yeah, because the moment we feel bad, then we feel worse, and then it's just this cycle that can spin out of control so quickly. And so again, I tend to think of introverts and extroverts just because we're now living in close quarters without relief. But it's also, well, what makes your heart happy? Like for me, one of the things that I absolutely love is being outside. And I live in Michigan, and it's still early spring here. And to get outside and to read a book makes my heart peaceful. And my sister, what makes her happy is lobster. And so the other day, she went and she got her kids Five Guys hamburgers. And she knew they would be just as happy eating hamburger and fries as she would be eating lobster. And lobster told her that life was good. Mm-hmm. And so it's just knowing ourselves and giving ourselves the permission and the necessity. I go back to, it's beyond permission right now. It's the necessity so that we can keep giving to others, because our roles don't stop. What we're doing has altered, but you still want to be the best mom that you can possibly be. And so those roles haven't stopped. So I think that's the number one thing that people can do, is take care of themselves, give yourself permission, because it's a necessity, not a want. And then make sure that those around you are doing their best to take care of themselves. I can just imagine the fascinating conversations you and your daughter have been having right now, because she's learning a lot more about herself and her extroverted needs and how to negotiate small spaces without breaks with people.
Yeah. I mean, the one thing working in our favor is that we've had these conversations before this, even just because my needs are so great, and so we've had to sort of intellectualize it. Like I didn't want her to feel like, if I'm, saying I'm going to go into my room for a while, I didn't want her to feel like it was anything personal. This is about me. It doesn't have anything to do with you. It's not caused by you, whatever. So we have had these conversations. So now it's like an extreme refresher. But I could imagine, for people who haven't had these conversations, like now is absolutely the time to start them, to just say, we run differently. Right. And your needs and my needs are different, and that's fine. And as long as we kind of keep getting to know what our needs are, and like you said, keep caring for ourselves, then in the long run, we will be, a much happier couple, family, whatever.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I agree.
Well, here's the other thing I'm thinking for your daughter is, as you are having these conversations, you're teaching her to take care of herself. And when she has the blessing of children, she will now have even more skills to encourage them to take care of themselves. Because what we give away grows, and what we don't have lessens. And so the more that we can be honest, the more that we can mentor, and the more that we can, I'm going to take care of myself. I really want you to take care of yourself. What do you need? How can I help you? And that's how we teach the next generation.
Yeah.
And we can even do that with our friends right now.
Yeah. And on my daughter's example, she did have a kind of grumpy period the other day. And, she said she was hungry. I was out giving her a few choices. She didn't want any of those. And she's usually like a really mild, sort of sweet kind of tempered kid. She was a little bit more like a rambunctious teenager in her responses and stuff. And I was like, all right, you know what? You let me know. And we sort of took a break. And then she came over to me, and she just like, after a while, came over to me, and she just like put her arm around my shoulder, and she goes, I was just having a tough time before, and whatever. And so I was happy she did that, of course, but then I could see in it too that she has that awareness of like, sometimes I'm going to have a tough time, and then I'm going to go and apologize for that. And I think, and it was like a complete reset, and then, everything. So you're right. I feel like, in my having modeled that with her, she's aware of that too. And it just helps us kind of get along. It's not like we're never going to get into moods or whatever, but it's what you do with it afterwards, and, building.
I so agree. It's what we do with it afterwards. And again, I don't think that gives us license to do the same thing over and over and over. And my hunch is very few people who are attracted to listening to this are going to be the type of people who give themselves a pass and they don't work on changing their behavior. But for the vast majority of us, it's just like, oh, be aware, change the radar. My best friend, over the years, many times I've said, oh, I have no freaking boundaries. And she'll always say to me, oh, pal, they flew in under your radar. And so right now, things are flying in under our radar that we don't even know are going to upset us or frustrate us or even know what we need. And we have a negative reaction. And then it's like, well, what just happened here? And we can work it backwards from that to what the need is. And then we can recalibrate the radar so that next time we have a different response when it comes in, because now we've seen it. And it was very interesting to me. The other day, I read the headlines and I started to cry, Tara. I cry now with the headlines. And I thought, well, what is going on? Am I sad? And I thought, no, I don't think I'm sad. Am I depressed? That's always my second question. Am I depressed? It's like, no, I don't think I'm depressed. Am I grieving? And I went, I'm grieving. Yeah. And when we're grieving, we have less bandwidth. And I think you and I are speakers. I grieve not getting to do my life work and what I love doing. I grieve the loss of life and what's happening. I grieve there's so much that is changing so quickly. And I just go back to, we're being hit on a lot of sides, physically, emotionally, spiritually, even intellectually, we're probably being challenged. And we just need to be kind to ourselves and to take care of ourselves, because we have less bandwidth than we have had in the past because of what's going on.
Right.
And we'll get it back. I believe that with all of my heart. And we need to weather the storm to the best of our ability. And a huge part of that, particularly for women, is what do I need to do to take care of myself? Because so often our focus is on taking care of everyone else.
Right. Absolutely. Good. And I do love how you mentioned the grief part, because there really is so much that we have lost. And the grief, if we ignore grief, it can really drain the little energy that we have left. So it is good to keep that in mind and process it. And hopefully we'll get back to that.
And my thought with grief is, grief when it's ignored bites you in the butt. But it was good for me just to go, how am I feeling? Why am I feeling that? And it's like, all right, I'm going to grieve. And, 100 years ago, people wore black armbands and they had black wreaths and they had these outward signs that said to people, be nice to me. I'm going through something very difficult. And we don't have any of those signs anymore. But my hunch is the vast majority of us are grieving right now. We just don't know that we're grieving.
Right,
And
right.
so,
And if we grieve in different ways, you won't recognize it. And so, yeah, there's nothing, no concrete thing, and then no consistent sign from anybody, because grief is different for everybody. So, yeah. So I guess it goes back to your original point, right? Be kind to each other, be respectful, and give, grace, and also to, give yourself the time that you need, not to feel guilty about that.
it was really interesting a while back on one of the Facebook feeds that you and I are part of. People were complaining about something, and one wise speaker, Christine Cation, chimed in and she said, "Give grace, get grace." And I thought that's what happened with you and your daughter. You have given her grace, you've received grace. She's given you grace, you've received it. And when we treat each other with grace, it's like, hey, we are not ourselves right now. We're doing our best. I believe that everybody is. I'm going to give you some grace right now, and please give some of that back to me, because I'm going to mess up and I'm going to step on your toes, or I'm going to get hangry, or, or I'm going to go, I can't take being around people anymore.
Yeah, I think that's great. Give grace and get grace. I love it. Well, thank you so much for sharing today with this one thing that we can do right now, because I think it's a really important thing, to definitely take care of oneself. And I wish you well, and hopefully we will be, back to our normal stuff sooner rather than later, indeed. And
Well,
possibly having learned some good, coping lessons, and learned more about each other, and hopefully can carry that grace forward into, when we get back to normalcy.
I agree. And I just want to tell you, thank you for what you're doing, for putting out these helpful short tips for people, and for taking a time where everything is slowed down to still serve people. I just love your heart and who you are. And I look forward to getting to know you even better as time goes on. It's been a real blessing to get to chat with you today.
Well, thank you so much, Sherene. I really appreciate that. I've really enjoyed talking with you too. Okay, have a great day.
You too. Thanks.